I'll call this meeting of the Fargo School Board to order. We do have an agenda in front of us. Jim?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the agenda? All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented with the HR addendum, please vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Moving on, strategic plan in action, celebrating successes report. Looks like Dr. Agri and Jeff Resnichek are here to present, so.
Good, thank you. I would like to introduce the team that Mr. Resnichek has brought along today from Centennial. They have been participating in a program that has been brought to us through SEEK, and there are a handful of other schools that are within our region that are participating, and it's called the Adolescent Literacy Project. And I've been able to sit in on some of the training and some of the walkthroughs and share in the excitement, and it's just been something really wonderful to watch that his staff has grown in the way that they're collaborating, and they have the three of them here tonight, and then they have a video to share with their teachers. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Resnichek.
Well, we want to thank you so much for this opportunity. As Dr. Agri has said, watching our teachers grow and our students grow under their tutelage has been an absolute honor. And having a principal who is so anxious to get some of these things embedded in his school and really holding that vision to be true is outstanding. So thank you, Dr. Agri, for allowing us to be part of it. This started a little bit with the coaching classrooms last year. It was an initiative that has began, and the CTLs, our principals, myself, and our strategist sort of did a few of these things with selected teachers in our building. And as an offshoot of that, we were introduced to this series with Dr. Feldman and through SEEK. So we've been really, really grateful to continue the work we did last year and start that embedding process this year. We are the only school in the Fargo Public Schools that is currently involved in this, and we are the largest group in that, so yay. Jeff has a very classy way of volunteering people. He actually didn't have any problem with it. I know this is on YouTube. I'm sorry. This is really interesting. Centennial's team of teachers. Our strategist, David Schneck, Megan Lindstead, a kindergarten teacher, Meg Jarzeski, a kindergarten teacher, Kimmy Milligan is our first grade teacher on the team, Anna Sen, Jill Gress is third grade, Robbie Benedict, a fifth grade teacher, myself as the administrative intern, Lisa Roski has been our CTL for a few years and also part of the project last year, as David was. Dr. Agri has been a constant support to us and member of our team. And of course, Dr. Resnichek, Mr. Resnichek. We have some goals, and so how this is laid out tonight is, since Jeff is the keeper of our vision, I'll outlay the goals. David, as our strategist, will talk about some of the execution of how we're doing that and what it looks like at Centennial. And then Jeff will follow up on how he'd like to see that in the next few years being embedded and implemented in his school. So one of our goals was to provide teachers with research-based academic literacy strategies that can be implemented into daily classroom instruction, which will lead to increased student achievement across all curriculum areas. So this is a project that is to provide vocabulary and best practices, so throughout our curricular areas, literacy can be involved and be stressed. And the second goal is to provide learning walks. These will be into the classrooms, and they'll participate. The participants will be teachers, and the job there is to provide the feedback. So we really focus on the positive, and then we focus on the wonderings. And we'll go into a little bit of that later as well. So those are our two main goals as to what the literacy project entails and how we've chosen to implement it at Centennial. Mr. Schneck.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Schneck, and I'm the strategist at Centennial. I'm very lucky to be involved in this project. It's been a very worthwhile experience, and I'm excited for the future that it holds at Centennial and possibly in Fargo Public Schools. So a little bit of the expectations that our team was presented with before they agreed to be on it was to participate in 5 days of training with all the other schools around the area and Dr. Feldman. We've already completed 3 of them, and we have 2 more, one in March and one in April. Another expectation was to create and implement lesson plans that would incorporate the strategies that we take back from these trainings with Dr. Feldman. So far, the strategies have been increasing student engagement for all students and increasing our vocabulary instruction and usage across the literacy areas. So we will also, as we talked about earlier, partnering with other school colleagues around the area and within Centennial, which will serve as learning partners for each other throughout the time of this project. So the team that is in Centennial, we do things just in Centennial. We do learning walks within our school with our core group of teachers, in addition to what we do with Dr. Feldman and the larger team. Observe and be observed by team members using the Learning Walk tool at least once after each training. So we get a little piece from Kevin Feldman, we bring it back to Centennial and try it out. An expectation was to meet and discuss these observations made with the Learning Walk team and to provide constructive feedback, both positively and constructively, after each observation. And then another expectation was to informally share the instructional strategies and techniques that are working. So this might be good conversation for PLCs, common planning time, all those types of informal strategies can be shared there. And also a expectation was to be able to videotape ourselves teaching to post online so that others can share it and we can collectively learn together. Yes, that was our expectations. Mr. Resnichek, thank you guys.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Resnichek. I'm the principal at Centennial. I just want to lead you into why Centennial chose to become involved. At Centennial, we want to continue the efforts towards increasing student achievement. That's bottom line. We do this because we care about our kids. We want our kids to achieve. We do this to create an environment that these are our students, not just my students in my classroom. They become all of our students. So across the grade level, across the building, we work collectively to support and give ideas to help all our students succeed. Our teachers, we want them continuously reflecting on their practice, thinking about what it is that I'm doing. Is it effective? Do I need to do a change? Do I need to continue what my practice is? And get feedback from their peers in doing so. To continue and develop and improve teacher instructional practice. Of course, that's what drives achievement. So we want to make sure our teachers have the best possibilities to get better throughout. Teachers, we want them to be able to learn together and from each other, because we are our bank. We are our knowledge bank, and we can come together and we can support each other with ideas, techniques, strategies to become stronger. Okay, no more teaching indoors or with doors closed in isolation. We come together and we talk and we learn together. We also want teachers to collaborate and share to improve their practice. Okay, this is done in PLCs. Wednesday afternoons we meet to talk about what's going well, and we ask questions when things aren't, so that we can get the feedback from each other. Professional development, it's not a one-time thing, it's day-to-day. And this opportunity of coaching classrooms and academic literacy allows us to do that, because we got teachers going into classrooms watching each other on a daily basis. At least that's our hope. But at least right now, on a weekly basis, to check things out, to see what's going on, to give feedback in positive ways to their peers. School climate, okay? We want staff, teachers, that partnership to be built on trust. And when we get people working together, trusting each other for advice, seeking feedback, we start to build that. What does that do? That increases our school climate, and it becomes positive. And lastly, for all our staff and our students, the norm at Centennial is we are here to learn. Our kids are here to learn, but we as adults are learners as well. So that's our mantra. We're here to learn. Our plan of implementation with this project is many. We continue, as David said, we've got 2 more days of training. There's a 5-day training this year. So far we've learned about how to increase student engagement, get kids thinking all the time, Not just having one person raise their hand and let them do the thinking for the entire class. It's everybody's thinking at the same time and giving those kids the opportunity to share that thinking. And then we talk about vocabulary instruction, explicit vocabulary instruction. Our kindergarten, for example, are learning college words. They love it because they can tell you what evidence is. So we're preparing them for tests that will come in future years. So that college talk at kindergarten starts it all out. David talked about learning walks, and these are teams within our building that we provide time for them to go to each other's classroom and watch lessons, and to provide feedback after those lessons. And what that feedback is positive comments about what they saw going well, reflective thoughts, why did you do this, okay? And not so much of a questioning way or a demeaning way, but just to get them to think. Wondering, I wonder if you did this, what might be the result or the questioning. The one thing we don't allow, as Kevin Feldman told, there's no shoulding on your colleagues. We don't should, because when you should on someone, that becomes more of an administrative role. Why? You should have done this, you should have done that. That becomes negative. So we keep it positive, we keep it as a chance to learn. Okay? We also do front end and back end supports with our strategist, David. David will go in, meet with the teachers that want to do some observing from each other, get that focus in line for what they're looking for. He will go cover a classroom while the teachers then meet in a classroom and watch a lesson or work together to improve instruction. And then when they come out, David then sits with them in a coaching session to get that feedback to come out. So they grow. They all grow. Lastly, we challenged our teachers with a question about this project, and I'd like to play these for you now. You're going to see that there's the question at the top, and then we have our teachers that responded. So I'll give you a second to read that question that we proposed to Jill, and I'll share her response with you.
The academic literacy project has made me more reflective on my teaching practice. In addition to being more reflective, I'm more intentional and selective about what I am teaching my students and more aware of the impact it is having on their daily learning experience. But truly, the best part about this whole experience is the collaborating and problem solving I get to do with my colleagues on a weekly basis.
This is Anna Sen. She's a second grade teacher. Asking about her biggest takeaway from this project.
My biggest takeaway from the academic literacy coaching classroom project is that everyone benefits when we open the doors to our classrooms. We all have strengths that we bring to our teaching, and we become stronger when those are recognized and celebrated. Some of the best professional development that I've experienced this year has been from watching my colleagues. And I just feel like we have so many teachers in our building that are using engagement strategies and literacy strategies very well. And I've become a stronger teacher by watching them and taking some of those ideas back to my classroom.
This is Kimmy Milligan. She is one of our first grade teachers. She'll talk about the effect on student achievement.
There's two things I think about when I think about student achievement that I've seen so far. One is we've been learning some good ideas for best practices, and I think as teachers we sometimes feel like it's hard to incorporate that, or what would it look in my classroom, and it's so nice to hear feedback from other teachers that, yep, I saw engagement, yes, I heard your vocab, I'm wondering if you could try everybody doing the same thing at the same idea, and just having those extra set of eyes on the same kids. And the second thing I think about is we all kind of have our own bread and butter, and it's so nice that if I have a struggling child that I don't know where else I can go to, that I can call on other teachers and I feel safe to have them come in my room and show me, how would you try it? What else are you seeing that you would do that I'm not seeing?
We asked Robbie Benedict, one of our fifth grade teachers, what if all the members in your grade level had this opportunity? What would that be like?
If all teachers at a grade level were participating in the academic literacy project, we could take the project to the next level. Most people learn by watching and doing. Our whole grade level could learn from each other and raise our expectations in the areas of student engagement and vocabulary development.
This is Megan Lindstedt. She is one of our 2 kindergarten teachers, and we asked her the question about having 2 kindergarten teachers. What's been the effect at the grade level?
My grade level is at a unique situation because we were the one and only team that had 2 members that participated in this project. So I feel like this has made our team stronger because it has allowed us to not only open our doors, but also open ourselves up to show some of our vulnerabilities and to talk about some of our weaknesses, because her and I have both been in kindergarten for less than 10 years. So we both feel like there's a lot of things that we're not 100% successful at all the time. So it's allowed us to go to each other and just say, how do you do this? And then it also allows us to go to our grade level at PLCs and say, you know, I'm really struggling with getting my kids to understand this. How would you try and do it? And we've not been focusing on the negatives we're doing in our classroom, rather we're focusing on things we could try or do differently for our students.
This is our second, Meg Jarszewski. We talked about school climate. She has a thought on that, being a participant in this program.
I believe that this project has already had a positive impact on our school climate at Centennial. We as teachers have been taking risks by opening up our classroom doors to have others come and observe and give both positive and constructive feedback on our teaching strategies. And I feel like this is developing a sense of trust among each of us. And I also am so thankful to have administrators here at Centennial that went first and had us observe their teaching. And I think that this really shows that we have a common goal of improving student achievement. Secondly, we have become far more reflective in our teaching, and I really value the fact that we have time to review our teaching with our colleagues. And it's also been a great opportunity to observe others and help in their reflection process as well. And lastly, I feel we've learned a great deal about strategies that help engage students in their learning. And this, no doubt, will have a positive impact on our student climate as well. And overall, I feel this project has helped create connections within our building and has also developed a sense of trust among each of us. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to participate in this. And I really look forward to seeing what other positive changes this will have in our future.
And lastly, our visionary, Mr. Schneck, will talk about where he thinks this will be in 5 years.
Well, 5 years from now, I guess my hope would be that this project is really no longer a project. This weekend I was building something in my garage, and that was a project. It took a couple of hours. I completed it. It's done. But now that it's completed, I'm probably going to use that storage cabinet daily, weekly. I'm going to use it a lot. So that's kind of how I thought of this project, that in 5 years, it's just the way we do things around here. It's no longer one time we do it and forget about it. We do it all the time, and it's how we breathe, and it's how we communicate, and it's how we act, and it's the norm. So as far as Fargo Public Schools goes, in my opinion, that this is PD at its finest. This is professional development, live in action, directly related to students. So if we can somehow get that out and about and into the district, I would hope that buildings across the district will replicate what we've done here at Centennial.
So in finishing, who benefits the most with this project? It's definitely our Centennial students. So thank you for this opportunity. We're trying to get the biggest bang of the buck, and we we know it's going to continue. We open our doors for learning for all. So, questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The next item on the agenda is recognition of our audience. We did have one citizen sign up to address the board. Her name is Ann Case, and she would like to talk to us about middle school changes. And if you could come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Then I have to read my little spiel here. Speakers are asked to refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee by name. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. Should you desire a written response to a specific question, you may certainly request it. You will be allotted 3 to 4 minutes to address the board. How's that?
Perfect.
Go for it.
My name is Ann Casey. My address is 3420 Birchwood Court South, Fargo, North Dakota, 58104. Who am I? I'm a parent. I have 2 kids in middle school here in Fargo, and I was approached by Brad Larson, the principal at Carl Ben, to be a member of the reformulated middle school schedule task force team. And I joined that task force full of trepidation and fear, and was made to feel most welcome. I had planned to be here this evening as just a silent person saying, "Go, Dr. Gross," when he talked about where the task force ended up last Wednesday night. Word got out, and they said, you know, how about you say something to the school board, like, thank you. A number of parents and teachers, both on the task force and outside of the task force, realized that the events of last year created upheaval, created stress, created a poor impression, and Fargo Public Schools district office, parents and teachers went into overdrive to really address that issue head on. And that takes guts, it takes courage, and it should be commended. And this is my commendation to you guys tonight. Dr. Gross will give you a short update tonight, but I'm very pleased with how Draft 26 morphed into Draft 27. Tremendous work by parents and teachers. The renewed focus and effort and insight that went into the reset of the task force, I think, made a huge difference in terms of we got to get her done. And that is what happened. A thank you to Dr. Gross and Dr. Schatz. Dr. Gross is a demon with data. And anytime we said, you know, what is the impact of, and how many students will be affected by, and what does this really look like, he could pull that data. And having access to good, hard, solid data to answer some of the hard questions made the decision-making process a lot smoother, because numbers don't lie. Also, to both the gentlemen, their shepherding of the process and the website they put in place to keep the community updated with minutes and agendas and draft revisions really made my life a lot easier, because I could tell my friends, just go to the website, just go check it out. It's there, it's public, it's open. Join in the process, even if you're doing it from a computer. So thank you to the board, to the district office, to everybody who was involved in the reset of the middle school schedule change. I'm very excited about where the process ended up and what Draft 27 looks like. I'm very positive. It has my full support, and I look forward to a good rollout and great outcomes for all our students here in Fargo Public Schools. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann. And thank you for your time on the middle school task force. It sounds like we have a new moniker in the room, Dr. Data Demon. Nobody has ever said it better. So thank you to everybody that presented to the board tonight. We really do appreciate your feedback and comments. Next item on the agenda is the FEA report. David?
Thank you. We have FEA put together a group of teachers to start lobbying the legislators of issues that come up, bills that come up. Right now, we have about 25 teachers that have agreed to be on the committee, and we'll be emailing and calling if issues come up, and so we're excited for that little committee to start. It's the first time we've done this in Fargo, so hopefully it'll be beneficial to us. We also have several members who will be attending the Hostel in the Workplace seminar. Is put on through North Dakota United. It's held on February 7th. It is open to the public. They just ask that people register at the North Dakota United website. And they've had about 4 throughout the state so far. I think they're putting on about 7, and it's been pretty well received. So looking forward to that. And last, we're sad to see that Cheryl's name was on the retirement list, and we thought to thank her for her time and her commitment to us as well. And working with her has been great, and she's been very collaborative with us, and so we hate to see her go. So that's it.
Thank you, David. I did hear Nick Archuleta, your Indy United president, on some radio ads and did a nice job. So pass my thanks along to him. Communications report. Anne Marie is joining the group tonight, so you'll get to see her from a different angle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bringing you tonight a report from the communications team. The memo with the corresponding information was sent out to you in advance. So a lot of data in that packet of information regarding our communications effort here at the district. Just want to talk to you about a couple of things tonight to highlight, and then would be able to take any questions that you may have. Just wanted to draw your attention to the goals that we have listed in that plan, or in our packet tonight. We are doing well on achieving those goals. You can see that we have met and exceeded a couple of those. The ones in regard to media releases and the coverage of those media releases, obviously we can't finalize that until the end of the school year, but we are tracking positively to meet that goal that we have set as a communications team. And I want to mention too, all the data in this report was as of January 15th, so the cutoff of January 15th. Also just want to review how many news releases we have sent out. At times we hear from our constituents, we did in the focus group, if you read that feedback from the focus group in November, that we don't share enough positive information on our students, that we need to shout that from the rooftops of the positive things that we have going on. We do try to do that, and you see the news releases as we send those out each week that we send those out. So I just want to alert you to the historical view of how many news releases we have sent out, both on average and then by month. And you can see how this year, on our focus to send out more information about what's happening in our buildings, how much more we have sent out by month when you compare that to the columns to the right of where I have that highlighted. So we're pushing that, we're doing more. Lisa, Betsy, and I work with our building principals, our teachers, as much as possible to share the information about what's going on in our schools. And just to update you on a couple of the pieces of information from January 15th, we've sent out a couple more news releases. So right now the total for January is 7. Facebook likes, we have gotten a few more of those in the last few days, and the same thing with Twitter. So you can tell our social media is just going up and up and up, and we shared some graphs in there with you as well. Facebook has really skyrocketed for us this year, which is a good thing, so we can share more information with our constituents through that medium. But we're just seeing a large uptick in our followers. Just want to talk about a couple more things and then can open up for questions if you have any tonight. We had emailed out the communications plan that we have put together to address the feedback we received at the November 6th focus group. That was sent out to you in previous, and we talked about that last board meeting a little bit, but just want to review that with you for a moment. That's also at your tables. Some of the things that we were doing proactively right away are listed there on the screen. It's on one of the first pages in the communications plan that's at your table. Working with the city for an inclusion in the iFargo newsletter. We have established a section in our newsletters on the board to do more sharing of information on you guys and your work. I'm sure you guys have seen that in the Journey and in School Talk. Doing a little bit more with the webpage RSS feed of, again, board information. You might have noticed last week, Robin Nelson had her first column, monthly column in our newsletter, so doing that on a monthly basis from the board president. We will be working on the next year on a website redesign process, so working with our IT team to see if we need to do a hosting change of our website and then a redesign, regardless if we go with a different hosting company or not. We will be initiating a redesign process. Also, what's really great, we have taken our School Talk newsletter, our external newsletter, and taken that from a subscription-only basis. And at the beginning of January, we have moved that to a newsletter that we send out to each and every parent that we have an email address on file for with the district. So that took that newsletter from about 1,000 people who receive that on a weekly basis to over 10,000. So we're getting that information, if they choose to read it, directly to them on a weekly basis. And that is that sister publication to our internal newsletter, The Journey. Also, we will be doing a communications audit with NSPRA. Talked to you about that a little bit last week. That will be on March 9th, 10th, and 11th. And then also in the information at your tables is the information campaign of information we're going to start pushing out more specifically to our constituents, and you can look at that in your free time. A little bit more about the communications audit. It will be March 9th, 10th, and 11th. I will be getting more information to you closer to. We are working with our auditor right now, Bob Noyd. He is out of Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. We are working to set up that time that he will be with us, looking at what focus groups we'll be doing, what the timing of that, what those days will look like. Still working with him on that. He will come to us and do 10 focus groups with constituents that we work with to set up for him. He'll be reviewing all the communications efforts done by the district and then be giving us a report back with recommendations, things that we perhaps should look at, consider doing. We won't receive that back in probably till midsummer or so. Bob also did West Fargo's audit in the fall. They're still waiting the report back as well, but he was on site in November in West Fargo working with our friends in West Fargo. So if you have any questions about the information received in advance of the meeting, happy to answer those at this time.
Got Rebecca and then Jim.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to commend you for your efforts and the team. And I was visiting with a couple of parents today about a couple of different issues that we are addressing here tonight, and they said they're so thankful for the information that's on the website. They have learned to go there on a regular basis to see what is going on, to receive updates. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Jim?
I'm kind of new to this process of actually thinking that we are professionally communicating. This is an incredible thing, a communications report. It's long overdue, and to you and your team, because I know it's an entire team, absolutely tremendous job.
Thank you. Thank you, yes. I am lucky enough to work with Betsy and Lisa on a daily basis, and they do a lot of the things that are actually in this report that you have in front of you of information. So we look forward to working with NSPRA to see what else we can do in our district to continue to increase what we're doing already. So we look forward to working with NSPRA and seeing where we can take it. John?
Madam President, I join in acknowledging our team and your leadership in this front. It's also nice to not have us. It's kind of homegrown, grassroots, real, authentic people, and we're not like sending out PR experts and slick media folks. We're just us, and I think that resonates well with the people in the trenches with the information are sharing it genuinely. The only question I have, and maybe there's more to this than I know, but it's just a seed to plant with us with regard to communications is documenting our history more. There's times we have events that I'm looking around, like when we opened Agassiz, and I'm thinking, gosh, I wish we had videos of this to show the whole community and to archive in libraries for the future. Or, you know, we had Davies, and we'd had documentation of that, but if and when, and I'm before your time, Anne Marie, I believe maybe 5 years ago, the board and the district embarked upon a plan of investment in videography machines for different aspects of the district. And one of the thoughts I thought was shared then was that we could utilize some of those talents and those resources more for videoing, taping and recording and podcasting. But that's my only thought, is the more we know the value of historical reference to things that happen, and anytime there's an opportunity to build our library for the future's sake of referring back to it, it's just when it's possible, it'd be greatly appreciated. And you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, we don't do a ton with video, at least on our website right now, but that is probably something we can look into as we increase. Also, as we look to do different things with our website, some of the website things, hosting services that we are looking into have different things available to us than we do right now. So I'm not sure about the video aspects, but that's something we'll look at as well.
That might be a cool project for the foundation, to have an historian. Just a thought. I have to admit, when you had the different upticks and views on YouTube, I was wondering what the issues were. So, anyway, Dinah?
I was waiting to be the last one to give you all a chance to ask questions, but you've, instead of asking questions, have already given Anne-Marie and her team kudos. But as the communications chair, and also for someone who I think has been on communications the entire time I've been on this board, and I've said many times, it's a real treat to actually have individuals in those jobs now who know what they're doing, who work well together, and who are doing this job that we used to just talk about but never really were successful at. And regardless of what the audit says, we are way further ahead than we ever were, and I think that's all due to these three really well together and are doing a great job for our district. So that's all I wanted.
Agreed. Jeff, do you have any closing comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment about the fact that public forums and having public forums is one thing. Doing something with the information and the feedback we get is another. And so I think really important to note here is that our public forum that we had earlier this year has not only helped us drive our strategic planning process, but it's also internally given us feedback for thought, and Anne-Marie and her team have dug through all of that feedback and have come up with the plan that you see before you, has created the opportunity for us to do an audit to further investigate what we could do better, and in the end will just make us stronger. So I just wanted to note that that's kind of the impetus behind everything, and that's the other side of communication. So just want to say kudos to Anne-Marie and her team also for a great job done.
Thank you for all your work on this. We really do appreciate it, and I'm sure the public does as well, and will continue to do so. Anything else, Anne-Marie?
I will note that right now, as I'm sure you're aware, our staff recognition program is going on, where people in our community can nominate teachers, administrators, or support staff people to be up for those categories of the year awards. Those we awarded in the spring. Our nomination process is open now until February 15th. This is the second year that we've had this program. I'm excited to report that the nominations are rolling in on a daily basis. We are seeing an uptick from last year, so that's great. We honor all of the people who are nominated, just not the people who are bestowed the award. We do not. We recognize everybody after those awards are given out. So just want to let you know that that's going well for us again, and those nominations are open until February 15th.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Agri?
I would just have a quick update on our operational plan. I spoke last time about the Research for Better Teaching contract. It's a consultant that we've had for the past 5 years, and she comes intermittently throughout the school year to support our teams. She'll be here next Tuesday. She'll be working with the principals for half-day sessions on cultural proficiency, and she's also really been talking to them about the idea of a growth model of intelligence, that you can grow intelligence, it's not innate. And a lot of what she does with our principals and when she does site visits, we can all go through the using data process and analyze data and do nothing with it, just like we talked about the focus groups. It's collecting information and then letting it be stagnant. And so much of this process is about what you really believe about the students you have the opportunity to serve. So on Tuesday, that's half-day sessions. I know you were all busy, but you were always welcome to those sessions, so if you're interested, let me know. And she will be spending Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday out in buildings. She works with data teams or leadership teams, depending on where the building is in the process. And she works with them for 90-minute segments. Again, open to someone coming in and watching it. It's pretty amazing, the conversations that she works with them on. A lot of what Jeff referred to of she's not coming in and being the expert or saying what they should do. It's really saying, I'm wondering what if. So that's an opportunity that's open to you. She'll be here all of next week, and then she'll be back one more time in April to wrap up her work with us.
Very good, thank you. Dr. Gross?
Yes, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the middle school task force. Some of what was shared earlier, thank you, Ann, for sharing that. Since our last meeting, our last parent meeting on November 24th, in which we gathered feedback on the work of the previous middle school task force, we have pulled together a group of 24 individuals, staff members from each of our buildings, representing each of those, the curricular areas from the middle school, and 2 parents from each building. We have met 5 different times, and all of the minutes and agenda are posted on the public information warehouse, and discussed the last draft, which was 25 that we shared with the public, a modified version, and then one more. And through those conversations, which have been very rich and I think wonderful conversations, we have come up with a new draft that we would like to bring to our parents one more time for feedback. So I will be meeting with the 3 middle school principals on Thursday, and then we will set up parent meetings at each of our middle schools in which we will share the recommendation that's coming from this committee to get feedback around this modification of the middle school schedule. We hope to have that completed by the 2nd week in February, and then by the end of February, I will bring back to you the feedback from our parents and the recommendation to move forward. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Dinah, do you have a question?
I was just wondering if we were going to get a chance to see what you're taking to the parents.
I don't have it to hand to you, but it is on the website. What we are looking at in changes would be currently large group rehearsal for band, choir, orchestra happened during period 1, which is a time period before all students come, so just some of the students come to the middle school. This recommendation would say all students start at the same time, and then what we would do is we would move that rehearsal into the day. We would do that during an advisory period, so some students would leave that time period for their large group rehearsal. But we would make sure that we do large group rehearsal on a rotation basis so that every 3rd day, all students are there for their advisory, that team building, that relationship building opportunity, which is one of the tenets of the middle school schedule. Then past that, 6th grade, there are no changes in the coursework that we are suggesting. In grade 7, what we're looking to do is replace a career and tech ed class called Tools for Schools with a course that would be entitled Design and Modeling. It's a Project Lead the Way class, really centers on STEM education, allows students that opportunity to explore and learn that engineering design process. And then past that, in grade 7, the thought would be to take 2 quarter-length classes, a drama and a CTE class, and combine those so that that time period is 1 semester, and we would have a creative dramatics class for a semester for all of our students in grade 7. And then in grade 8, what we would do is we would replace a career and tech ed class and replace it with the next class in that Project Lead the Way series around automation and robotics to allow our students the opportunity to continue those STEM opportunities around robotics and coding and so on. And then finally, the last change in grade 8 would be currently if a student does not take a world language, they choose from one of 3 classes. We would change that to where if they don't take a world language, they would take 2 classes, and those classes would be an art and a career planning class. And that career planning course would be a new course in which students explore the 16 career clusters to think about what are their strengths, what that means for them as they continue through high school and some of the impacts, and we would embed the project-based learning into that course.
Good. I've got Paul and then Dinah.
This is a question for the, on, isn't it? Testing. This is a question for the demon of data over there. Just trying to follow along what you're talking about, the various course changes and so on. Do we currently have a ninth grade drama class? I think we do, don't we?
Ninth grade, yes.
Is it like a semester?
Yes.
And would that continue under this new program? And what you're just proposing, one of the things I noticed you mentioned is a creative dramatics class in the 7th grade, or is it really another drama class?
It would be, the class would be from our drama instructors.
Right.
And it is that group who is suggesting that change to the name, but it would be a drama course.
Okay, thanks.
Dinah.
I was just wondering, you didn't address the big issue, which was the extra interventions for kids and how that's going to be adjusted.
Thank you. That also would take place during that advisory time period, so that on the 2 of those 3 days, students who may be struggling in math or a world language or a science course would be in an academic advisory instead of the advisory that we might use today, in which their teachers who have already taught them math, world language, or science would work with them with that gift of time, some extra time to help them on some of those concepts. So it would be during that advisory time period. And that really would be for that, that next supplemental instructional support that I might need. Then the interventions for a student who may be struggling in math or in language arts, we would continue to look at how do we replace some of the courses for that student. So instead of a 7th grade language arts course, a specific course in reading intervention that we currently do, how do we supplement that and expand upon that into the future?
Paula?
Back again, Dr. Gross. When you were talking about the music classes moving from the first period to, was that to an advisor period during the day, right? So they'll move from the first period to whatever that advisor period is, and but it would still involve basically the same kids, right? They'd all have the advisor period at the same time?
Correct.
And is this actually, is this in grade 7 or 7, 8, and 9 or 7 and 8 or 6, 7, 8?
It would be in 6, 7, and 8.
And would it replace what we would typically have called band class or vocal class or whatever?
This would be the students' large group rehearsal. They would still have a sectional during the day. If they are in band, they would have that time for trumpet or trombone, a sectional. If they were in orchestra, the violas would get together and so on. So it would not change or take anything away. It just changes the time of day in which that large group rehearsal takes place.
Has your feedback from the music staff been pretty uniformly positive or a split, or how would you describe that?
I think it was a very good conversation. I think this modification to the plan that we had before is viewed much more favorably from our music staff. And we had a music instructor as part of that team. In between each of those meetings, she would go back and meet with her peers and then bring that feedback back to our team. So I think we certainly did listen and accommodate that feedback.
This is an improvement or a change from moving it to the end of the day, I think. Isn't that what originally we looked at possibly?
Yes, we thought about moving this to the last period of the day, and I think our music staff feel that this is a more positive change.
That's what I thought. Thanks.
So you probably don't even need to give your next presentations since we heard everything, right? Thank you for sharing. That's wonderful. Anything else, Bob?
Nothing.
Okay. Dr. Schatz.
A couple of things I just want to go through with you. Strategic planning is continuing, and we've had good meetings with that. We've had 4 now. We have 56 people on the committee. I've been very impressed with the attendance. We've only had 2 or 3 people absent at each meeting. Conversations have been very rich. I'll use Bob's terminology. And we've spent 2 hours each night, and we don't even take a break. We just keep working all the way through. Committee members are very focused. Currently, we're in the process of finalizing, hopefully, a new mission statement for the district. We also have looked at core values. We've looked at vision statements. I'll be coming to you probably, I would say, in the next month with kind of a preview of the work that we've been doing to get some of your feedback, because I want to get you into the loop too. But a very committed group, and so far things have been moving along nicely. We meet again Monday at 6 o'clock over at the Agassiz building up in the loft, and we'll continue our work. And again, that is also a website, so if you're interested in going out and looking at the agendas and what's going on at those meetings, you can go look at that website, and all the information's there for you to keep updated on what we're doing. Second thing is Brock is out today. He's got a wing that is being fixed, and I had that done today. I'm not quite sure how that went for him. We'll find out later, but he generally would do a legislative update for you. I had the opportunity to be out in Bismarck yesterday and today. I spent some time on Capitol Hill today, visiting with folks and sitting in on a few sessions. This week is really, my take from this week is that there's a lot of amendments going on to bills that have been placed out on the floor. I sat in on one bill today. It was the bill that would allow individuals to bring a gun into school if they had a permit and they were approved by the school board to do so. It was an interesting conversation that went on for probably over an hour and a half. One individual testified for over an hour for the bill. Of course, our groups were out there with the School Boards Association, the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders, ND United. All of those groups, of course, testified in opposition. And so I guess we'll just see where that ends up in the end with regard to that bill. There are several other things going on. Some of the funding bills. Last week was a big week for funding bills, and Brock was out on Monday and Tuesday and did a lot of work behind the scenes with folks on those bills. I don't even want to get into the weeds there tonight because we could spend 3 hours on this, but we'll continue to monitor those bills, and we'll see where they end up with the amendments that everybody's working on right now. Had the opportunity to sit in on Senator Flacco's committee meeting today. They were talking about early childhood bill that they've been working on. They're working on some amendments to that, but it still looks like the original intent of that bill is going to come through his committee. We'll see where that goes from there. There's one interesting bill that I thought I'd bring to your attention. There's some bills that actually provide some comedy and comedic relief, so I thought maybe we'd just give you one or two of those. But there's one bill that's really interesting, and that is the local sheriff would have the power to close down schools on weather days. If this bill were to go through and the sheriff declared in the county no travel advised, the superintendent would have to immediately close school and send kids home and have no other activities until further notice. I'm not sure where Paul Laney is on that and having that kind of power, and I'm not quite sure that if a bill like that were approved, how that would impact the Fargo schools, since we really don't have any rural routes. Or very few rural routes, if any. There's a couple other bills out there. There's one bill, Senate Bill 2209. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but every school district after the last biennium was asked to do training with their staff on mental health awareness and those types of things, working with suicide and all those kinds of things that unfortunately we sometimes have to deal with. That was to be an every other year training. There's a bill now that says that that would be every year. And so probably appropriate, not sure where that'll go, whether that'll have legs, but there is somebody out there that has put that forward also. There's one last one that I thought was interesting because it contradicts itself. House Bill 1283 is written, it is a bill that addresses the state assessment. We are required by North Dakota Century Code to have the state assessment occur each year in certain groups of kids. This new bill would, with the change in the bill, would still require the assessment, but would allow us to go out to parents and say, you can opt out. So it would be state law that you have to take the test, but you can opt out. So it contradicts itself. My comment on the bill is that if we were to allow, since the state requires us to do it, and we still have parents that opt out, and they just choose not to take it, and we allow that to happen, but we're actually breaking state law by doing that, but we can't force a child to take a test. I think the intent of this is to fix that, but what I've told some of my legislative colleagues is that if that were to come true, then the overall score that we get, the final score for our school district, would not include those students. Currently it does. If a student opts out, their 0 score is still included in the overall analysis of the overall score. So there's a lot of things missing there. And so these are, again, other attempts to do some of the things with assessment, which leads to the last bill, and that's where we'll be out on Monday. Bob and Rachel and myself, we're taking a couple of our teachers out, meeting up with a coalition of people with the North Dakota Council of Educational Leaders, ND United, and other folks who will be testifying against the known as the Casper bill. And that is the bill to do away basically with the way that we do schooling, assessment, the types of curriculum that we offer, the standards and all those types of things. So it's known as the Anti-Common Core bill. And so that's on Monday at 8, and we will be out there and joining that group to testify and to see where that ends up. So I don't know, Robin, we said we'd team this, so I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch base with on.
No, I think you covered it. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that hearing on Monday.
I'm sure it'll have press coverage.
Dr. Schatz, with your interaction out in Bismarck at the legislature, have you heard any preliminary thoughts about what impact there might be on the various school funding bills as a result of the perhaps reduced money from oil that's coming in? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I actually had an opportunity to meet, to visit with Senator Holmberg, who oversees the Senate Appropriations Committee. And there is some caution to the wind right now out in the legislature with regard to overall revenues because of the declining price of oil. And so I think that's the sense right now is caution. People are just kind of holding back and trying to see where that might land. But I think we're going to have to wait till March or April to really see where that's at. But they are talking in those terms and could have an impact overall in decisions that are made, particularly that last week, which are typically when they put the gavel down on any kind of major funding bills. The overall education funding bill is very positive, and we're very supportive of where it's at right now, and we hope that it makes its way through with the increase in ELL funding and overall foundation aid payments. Not a whole lot of changes in the structure of the bill, which over the last several bienniums, they've done lots of work to it. So it's pretty much in good shape right now, and we hope it makes its way through, because I think that would be good for us. But caution to the wind right now with that.
Yeah. Brock and Dr. Schatz and the rest of the team have been really busy on this legislative. I mean, you're watching it hour by hour as these things evolve. So thank you for all your work. I know Brock actually rescheduled his wing surgery to go last week for the funding bills, and it was a good thing that he was there, and he was glad that he went. So we'll be back and forth. Thank you to those board members who also contacted their representatives that they have chosen to contact. I know it made a big difference in some amendments on the ending fund balance. So.
And then I just had one last comment. It's follow up on the middle school schedule. And, I just think that I need to say thank you to Bob for really taking that whole process by the reins, getting a new committee put in place, having parents like Ann on the committee, reinvigorating that whole process. I did take the opportunity to go to one of their meetings and just sat for 2 hours and didn't say a word, unbelievably, and just listened to what was going on. And I think I said it when we stopped the process and said, time out, that eventually we'll get to the right place, and we're at the right place now. So I'll look forward to the final report from Bob, and as we move forward with that schedule, which has been going on for years. So we can hopefully bring some finalization to that. So thank you to Bob for all his hard work, and to that committee for doing the job that they did.
Thank you, everybody. I think we're at an hour, so let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 6:38. HR addendums.
As prepared.
Okay.
I didn't turn my mic on, so let me do that again. I move we approve the consent agenda as prepared.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. Any questions on that? So we don't need a motion on these pieces, correct? Or we don't need a roll call. Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented with the HR addendum, please vote by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? No. Consent agenda is approved. And so are some retirements that I'm not so excited about. So, all right, next section on the agenda is our business section. We did meet in a full-day board retreat on January 16th, and a couple items that were discussed there are coming forth tonight at the direction of the board from that retreat. So the first item would be the future use of the Eagles Center, which is memo number 70. We did see a pretty thorough presentation, so I don't know how much more discussion it needs, but I think that our administration is looking some direction from the board on how to proceed. John?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education direct administration to pursue expanding the Eagle Center into a 3-section K through 5 elementary school and bring a recommendation back at a later date for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion's on the floor. We did have a lot of discussion about this at the retreat. Were there any other questions tonight or comments that need to be shared? Okay, John?
Madam President, not that it's new information, but it's the first time at this table that we're talking formally about this topic. And after having gone through the facilities planning and now our strategic planning, after what we've begun to implement of the facilities plan 1 year into it, the notion of continuing on that path and adhering to the shared vision of the people and our constituents in the district and the city is really good news. The folks of Fargo spoke out in the Go 2030 plan of what some of their values are. And this decision or discussion of the Eagle Center mirrors those values so well, like the Ed Clapp Kennedy or school does mirror those values. Neighborhood schools, infill, walkability, and so on. So, and cost effectiveness, the notion of this school being there and having a footprint already to work with, kids and families already around it, it's just such a good moment for us to embrace that and take it to another level. So I'm really pleased that this is where we're at, and someday we'll be down 120th Avenue South or something, but meanwhile, we're putting another school where the people are.
Well said. One of the things that I like about this plan is it really puts some longer permanence on some of those boundaries. We all know they will never be permanent, but it adds some stability there where it hasn't been. So that makes me feel pretty good, not just for the education, but also for those families. I know how important that is to them. All right, we do have a motion on the floor for administration to proceed with the planning. This we will need a roll call on.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes, motion carries. Add that one to your short list, huh? That'll be a big one. Oh, there's more. Okay. Next item emerging from the retreat conversation is on memo number 71, and it deals with secondary boundaries. So again, that was thoroughly discussed at the retreat. To open up discussion, I would entertain a motion. Dinah?
I move that the Board of Education direct administration to create an implementation plan for secondary boundary changes for the 2016-17 school year and bring it back to the board for approval when ready.
Paul has seconded it. Motion's on the floor. Questions or input?
Bob, did you have a chance to push forward the north side numbers to show me what they're going to look like in about 6 to 8 years up north? If we did the boundary change?
I'm working on that currently to make sure that the data I provide you is accurate, but yes, that is almost completed.
Okay, thank you.
Jim or Jeff, did you want to follow up on that one?
Right. If you would look at the memo that we have before you, you'll see 12 different items there. What we're going to do is, as a team, and Bob's already working on quite a number of these things, is come up with all of this information into a final recommendation to you. So that'll be a process that we'll engage in probably over the next 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks to get all this in place so that we can answer a lot of those questions, along with the same question you had, Jim, with regard to those numbers. So if there's anything else that we're missing there, you can always let us know if there's additional items you'd like answered. But we tried to brainstorm all the different things that we would want to bring to you so that there's clarity when we actually make a final decision. So,
Rebecca?
Okay, I appreciate that long list that is going to be researched, because I think that'll help us make the decision in a very educated manner. I want to make sure that we honor the vote that was on June 24th by the board the last time the drafts were looked at by the board at a board meeting that said that those decisions were going to be made in regard to secondary boundaries and implemented in regard to the strategic plan. So as I looked at the list of 12 items that are going to be researched, I think it's number 2 that talks about community input, or how this is going to be rolled out to the community, or community engagement. And maybe that is the spot where we as a board and a district are looking at kind of wrapping that into the strategic plan. But I just want to make sure that we don't lose that vote and that discussion that took place on June 24th. So I just request that, as Dr. Schatz, you mentioned, if there's anything missing from that list, that you've likely already taken a look at where that can fold in, but if not, if you could add that in to a step to make sure that we are incorporating that, and again, not forgetting the conversation that took place.
and you're right on with that, because what will happen with the long-range facility plan is that'll fold right into the strategic plan. This comes from the long-range facility plan. And so as we move forward, and I think as I've mentioned to you before, when we finish our strategic plan, I don't think that we'll be able to say that we're moving forward with this new program and that new program and those types of things. What we're going to do is put together a path for the future. And what I'm hoping comes from the strategic planning process is recommendations for further study of different types of programs. But by aligning our boundary areas, getting our facilities to where they need to be so that we can have students in facilities, getting the type of curriculum that we want them to have, that all melds together. And so, and it goes with the long-range financial plan too, that we've talked about. So somehow, when we get to the spring, we're going to try to meld that together and try to make that clear so that when we're said and done, our strategic plan is the governing plan that has these other things embedded in it. And then we don't have all these isolated things sitting all over the place. So that's, and I think I said this at another meeting, we're still painting that picture. So we'll get there.
Do you want to follow up?
And I think you mentioned something about an idea on time frame that you might be coming back to us, but what was that? Or maybe it's a little too early to share.
I don't really have a real specific time frame. I keep showing that to you each week. Kind of here's where we're at in the process. But we're hoping that by the end of the spring here, that we can come to you with a strategic plan that you can approve and we can move forward with. Because that'll be really critical for us to develop our operational plan for next year then, as we start new, basically, with where we're at.
I think the question might be, the only thing that I've heard black and white answer, because we have some parents saying, hurry up and make the decision, is the boundary changes probably wouldn't happen next year, if they did indeed happen.
And there has been some question on that as to why not next year. And there's a really good answer, is because we're already planning for next year. I mean, we would have to pull back all the processes that we have going on in our middle and high schools right now. We've had orientations for 8th graders at high schools. We have kids registering for classes for next year. So implementation is far more complex than just saying these kids are going to go here and let's just do it. So that's why we're saying 2016-17. In order to give the system the time to reorganize and be able to do it right, so that if there were children who are moved from certain attendance areas, those orientations and all those really important lead-ups to when they make that transition are in place.
I've got Jim and then John.
I think we all know it here at this table, but of course, anybody listening probably may not know it because it doesn't say it anywhere in here, but the plan I think we're talking about having you guys work on would take anybody in the Jefferson attendance area that lives north of Fifth Avenue South, and they would be reassigned to Ben Franklin and ultimately North High School. Anybody in the Hawthorne, Clara Barton neighborhood that live north of 13th Avenue South and east of University Drive would also, that section of geography is what we're talking about reallocating up to the north side secondary schools, which we all know, but I have a feeling there are probably some citizens out there that are pretty curious about this topic, and we might as well make sure everybody knows which plan we're looking at this point in time.
Thank you. John?
Madam President, Dr. Schatz, I don't know, I know we touched on it, and maybe there's no reason to, but another earmark topic to put on your list would be transportation-related issues, conceivably, if there are any or not, aren't any, or if it's inconsequential or is consequential, just so we're not surprised by anything with regard to transportation with the proposals you'd bring forward.
We'll add that.
Paul?
And Dr. Schatz, to follow up on Jim's comment, is there anything we're going to do specifically to make sure that those people in the affected and impacted areas will be notified in any special way? I mean, I know we do a pretty good job of trying to get that message out, but have you got any thoughts or ideas along those lines?
A plan for public input and notification. I'm going to add that on there.
Well, I know that you're planning to do that, Jeff. I just meant,
I mean, we have to decide how we would want to roll that out.
I
But
just
what we did with the elementary one was we took and we sent out individual letters to every homeowner that was involved in that process. But that'll be part of that, though. We'll come forward with, here's how we see that happening also, so.
because as you know, no matter what we do, we get the feedback that, well, we didn't know this was coming. So it's good, just to really go at it.
Rebecca and then Jim.
And depending upon if we do decide on the plan that Jim outlined in regard to the boundaries, whatever plan I guess we decide, especially if we end up with a split elementary school situation again, like we're going to have at Ed Clapp, if we can work within, make sure that we put a plan together to work within the culture of the school. Right now a lot of it is Jefferson, Clara Barton, Hawthorne, they're the Bruins. That's where, the posters, the sports posters are hung up, and they even talk about that. I even remember a couple of years ago, there was an idea to change from the Clara Barton Hawthorne Eagles to be the Clara Barton Hawthorne Bruins. And I'm not sure what they refer to themselves right now, but just making sure that we work within the culture to bring in Spartans, Bruins, kind of like what happened when we built Davies, and there was a lot of, there was collaboration there in regard to even what kind of wearables they had, both the Davies and the South wearables. And so I think that we can, realizing that there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, we can do a lot to help work with the culture and the children that are there to help make change as easy as possible.
Agreed. Jim and Paul?
And just again, because I don't want anybody yelling at me later for not making sure I explained it, what I described earlier were the attendance areas that would be assigned to Ben Franklin and North. I think the plan we're looking at also has some other families that will be shifting between South and Davies. And I don't have those addresses and roads quite as mapped out in my brain. But that information is certainly available at the district office here for anybody that wants to contact us and get it. So 2 different sections of town that could see some modification to their secondary feeder systems.
Go ahead, Jeff.
One last comment on that is that, just want to remind everybody, this is a process we're going into. Nothing's been decided. We're going to use the plan that you've talked about, but Now is not the time for input. Now is the time for us to get the information we need to bring it back and then get input, because we don't have all the answers to that yet. So that's why we are asking for your permission to move forward, and that's what we're going to do. So when we bring that back to you, then, because we can get all these scenarios going and then it'll just start to fall apart. And so I'm trying to keep it together as long as we can.
You'll get input. I'm sure.
So will you.
I bet we will. That's really fair. Paul, did
I
you have
just want to
something?
make a follow-up comment to Rebecca's remark. I know Rebecca has some kids in the elementary schools and talked about the drama of having different mascots and things like that, and I don't know who this would be addressed to, but I think it'd be great if our school district could move towards reducing the feeling of competition among the various schools and the mascots, and I think that would help promote a situation such as one that Jim was alluding to briefly, where you might have an elementary school that splits and all of a sudden they go to a different school. As old as I am and as long ago as it's been since my kids went to school and I went to these schools myself, to me, leaving the Ben Franklin mascot and moving to the Agassiz, as it was at the time, Tigers, I think, would have been just about as momentous as changing from tuna to macaroni. It just wasn't a big deal then. Apparently it must be now, at least to the parents, maybe not to the students. But so I'm just encouraging and saying, hey, let's find ways, if we have school events, let's find ways to bring those mascots together as brother and sister animals rather than as competitive animals.
Just a brief comment on that. I get the principal's goal in having them aspire to graduate as a Spartan, a Bruin, or an Eagles. I think it was completely innocent, but it's a little heartbreaking if you've been wanting to be a Bruin since you've been a kindergartner. So I get it. But yes, we need to be careful. Pass that on. Jeff?
Well, I was just going to mention, as we open Ed Clap too, and we're looking at mascots right now, and we're looking at, all those types of things, I've asked Jen to make sure that we go as neutral as possible, because, that sets us up for that. And there was that time in Fargo, as I look back at the history coming in new, where that happened. There was this transition to everything went to Spartans on the north end, everything went to the Bruins on the south end, and they were changing middle school identities, and they were changing elementary identities to all line. Well, that's fine, but then when you get in a situation of growth and change, then you deal with that, and that makes it much more difficult. So, and that will make, in some aspects, in some circles, more difficult. But as superintendent now, my direction would be, let's try to be more neutral, especially at elementary schools. When we get to the middle school, we can start doing that aligning more. But anyways, it is what it is, and we'll have to work through it.
Coming from the two Spartans up here, right?
Madam President, I know that our administration and even the board have spent quite a bit of time on this topic. So by the time it shows up at a boardroom, it might appear that it's coming out of nowhere. And I appreciate Jim's comments that we be really clear. These are the areas that will be impacted. But if I might indulge our leadership for just a moment, remind and share with us why we're doing this, so we get that as a matter of public record to know why we're looking at this, what the need is, and what the expected goal is coming out of it. Just to put that in front of the public tonight, if you would.
Well, that's a good point. Let's go back to square one. Why do we need to do this? We just had our enrollment report that I presented to you in quite length at the retreat, and prior to that, the new report that we had. As you look at that report, within 3 years, you're going to have Discovery moving into a situation where they're going to be at or over capacity. Within 4 years, you're going to have Davies at or over capacity. Within 5 years, you're going to have Bennett at 880 students. The growth is to the south. The growth is on the far south end. On the north side, you're going to have Ben Franklin with a steady and/or declining enrollment over those next 5 years. You're going to have North at a steady and/or declining enrollment down to 853 students in 5 years. So if you're going to have Davies at 1,500 students, Fargo North at 850, in order to effectively use our resources, effectively provide curriculum for students in order to engage in all the opportunities they want to engage in, we need to look at some kind of balance. And that's what this is all about. It's about how do we balance the middle school, high school attendance areas so that we have the same opportunities for all students. We effectively use our resources, and we do the best we can to manage growth that we have on the far south end of town. Other than doing what we're proposing, you would have to make big decisions about adding on to Discovery, adding on to a newly built high school. Then you get into philosophical discussions about how big do you want them to be. And I think that that has been a bridge that's been crossed many times in Fargo with regard to having reasonable sized middle schools and high schools that are around that 1,100 to 1,200 students, middle schools that are around that 1,000 mark, no bigger, and then those elementary numbers. We know what happened in the district when we started to build large elementary schools, and then we added on, and then we got up to almost 800 students. We're building elementary schools now at 550 to 600 students. We're looking at the research and we're saying, what's the most effective size of a school in order to maintain individual instruction with students, connectedness, culture, climate, all those things. So I like where the district's at with regard to what we've said with regard to size of schools. But now we have to deal with making sure that occurs. And so it's all about the growth. That's why we're here. Now we have to effectively manage it. And that's the difficult decisions that we have to make.
We come full circle there. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to add more to Jeff's list of things to do about secondary boundary planning. So the motion on the floor is that the Board of Education direct administration to create an implementation plan for secondary boundary changes for the 16-17 school year and bring it forward to the board for approval when ready. Anne Marie?
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes. There you go. Next item on the agenda is the Fargo Dorm Authority. And this has kind of been a moving target, gang. Since the agenda and the memos were sent out, we have had one person withdraw, and we have also learned about some more bylaws. So where we're at is you can cross Cole Carley off your list. Anne Marie did a lot of digging, and I became very appreciative of Anne Marie in this situation because she had to search out the bylaws and all the rules for another entity. So what she found was that there are no term limits for the Fargo Dorm Authority, and that the nominee or person that is appointed must be a resident of the city of Fargo unless they are appointed as the Cass County representative. That said, that puts us down to clearly one candidate, with the exception of possibly nominating Brock Leitz as a county representative. I don't know if we are in authority to do that, so I look to the board for guidance on how to proceed. We are required to submit 2 names. Jim?
Yeah, I'm going to move that we table this item to our next board meeting to give board members a chance to vet out additional people that may be interested in serving. And just a point of clarification for all of us, and maybe somebody over at City Hall is listening to us tonight. I do believe obviously Rob had one set of operating rules in his mind. Sharon sent over Article 34-01, which is really the ordinance relating to the Fargo Dome Authority. I've read through it, which just was because I got it at 5 o'clock today. And I can already tell you that I'm pretty sure we have a couple of people currently serving on the Fargo Dome Authority that maybe don't fit what the requirements are. Maybe you just have to be a resident of the city when you're nominated. You don't have to stay one to stay on the board. I have no clue. But I think we want to at least put forward 2 names, and I think they need to be a resident of a city. Now, I'm assuming when they say the city, they mean Fargo, but they don't actually list that. So I think we should probably try to find 2 people that are citizens in the city of Fargo that we can put forward, and hence I'm going to recommend we table this until our next board meeting.
We don't even need a formal table because there's no motion on the floor. So, Paul?
I'd like to ask a question then, and maybe Anne Marie has the information which would give us some further guidance. I was under the impression that we have the opportunity to submit 2 names, but are we required to submit? And who requires that? The city of Fargo?
The city of Fargo requires we submit 2 names. They are required to pick from our 2 names. If they do not, and they notify us that they don't like them, then we submit 2 more. And if they don't like them and notify us, we submit 2 more.
I'm really
So-
just asking the clarification, though, that it's a requirement to submit 2, it's not an
No,
opportunity to submit 2.
it's a requirement.
You can often vote for 2, but you're not required to vote for 2.
Yeah, no, we have to submit 2 names to them.
And
As
then-
many times as it takes for them to accept one.
And then is the board saying that at this point, we would open up nominee selections again so that we would end up with 2? And do we have any further insight? Cole is not willing to be one of those 2.
Correct. Cole has withdrawn from the process.
And did he know that Brock would at this point not be eligible to be one of our nominees?
We did not discuss that. He simply said that he had some other things going on right now, and he respectfully withdrew his name, and this was in an email. So, John?
I'm chuckling, Madam President. I know motions to table, I believe, are undebatable, but I'm glad you got the information in. So, that being the case, I second the motion.
But we don't have a motion on the floor. He's tabling the discussion, not the motion, since we don't have a motion yet.
I understand. So there's no business, even though it's a business item, it has to be moved first. So
Correct.
can we move to have it just put it on the next agenda, or does it matter, or no?
No, we'll just carry it
That-
forward.
okay.
And actually, we didn't expect all of these hiccups. We're not due until April, so we do have a little bit of time. So, almost like we planned that.
Madam President, again, if I might indulge you for a moment, I respect that we will continue onward to try find a slate of candidates that reflect the people we'd like to put forward, where they'd all be good voices for the district. And that's what I'm looking for, is a bridge to the district. If we have the opportunity to place somebody on a commission such as the Fargo Dome and its role in the region and everywhere further past, I mean, we have an opportunity to have a voice of the district there, and that's going to be my biggest measure, is what's that going to mean for us as a school district. So I'm glad we can continue forward with this.
Rebecca?
I wanted to thank Cole for his interest and Brock also. So I'm sure Brock would have been interested in having his name moved forward if he would have met the qualifications as far as residency. So thanks to both of them.
Well said. We have a governance meeting prior to the next board meeting, so we'll just figure out the best way to proceed. In the meantime, I think it's wise to seek out any nominations that you may feel would represent us well, and hopefully people that are watching might be interested too. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the calendar approval, and Rebecca had the sheer pleasure of being a first-year board member and serving on the calendar committee. So go for it.
All right. So Dr. Gross will review the details of the calendar in a bit, but I just wanted to let public know, especially if the board members here don't know already, but so this is a draft of the 2015-16 calendar, and there was a committee of 15 members that met 4 times, I believe, 3 teachers, 4 parents, 3 principals, 1 FEA, Fargo Education Association representative, 3 from the district office, and then I served on the committee as well. So it was very interesting. It was obviously very educational from my standpoint, because I was able to learn, we all were, about the North Dakota state statutes that are required in terms of how many days we're in school, what the paid holidays are, that type of a thing. But we took into consideration, obviously, the state statutes, the calendar that we have in place for 14-15, and also the co-curricular schedules that are out there. And there's a draft 3 that is on the public information warehouse that anyone is able to take a look at, and that we have for consideration tonight. I know that it also went to the citywide PTA, and that was the last step. And it sounded like after being to that group without any requested changes, it's here for us to consider tonight. So Dr. Gross will take us through the specifics. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, looking at the attachment to that memo, we're looking at the calendar that says draft 3 on the top. Besides what was already shared, just want you to know that this calendar does meet the requirements that we have, both from our contract we have with our Teachers Association and also statute. So there are 175 student contact days. Those are the dates that are the days that are shaded in blue. There are the 5 paid holidays. Those are the ones that are shaded in orange. We will build into the day after this is done, the evening parent-teacher conferences. And then there are 7 professional development days that are part of that contract. Those are the dates that are shaded in green. I did share this with the citywide PTA last Wednesday. Good conversation. There was no negative feedback or no questions about that, and I feel that group is comfortable that we move this forward. The plan from the calendar committee is, because at this time of year, we're typically building the 16-17 calendar or one calendar forward from this one. If you approve this tonight, what the calendar committee and I have discussed is putting together a survey in which we would share with our parents, our staff, and our community members, asking them to prioritize some of the different things that we talk about as a committee. Should we start before Labor Day? Should we end after Memorial Day? Should we have a spring break? Should we have the day off before Thanksgiving, and so on? And we will put that out as a survey, ask those different groups to prioritize those, and then once that the results are back, the existing calendar committee has agreed to come back still this year to use that data and build the 16-17 calendar so that we can get back on schedule and get that information to our parents and to our community members. So,
John?
Madam President, members of the board, I just have a question, and I don't understand this, so that's why I'm asking it. They say you should always know the answers of questions before you ask them. But I've gotten a sense that I'm guessing in October, is that when teachers' convention is?
that is correct.
Now, there's something more to that, I'm guessing, over time, and for my sake, they used to get paid or something to attend teachers' conventions, or something changed, and now we have the days off, but whatever changed, hardly any teachers go like they used to, and I've heard that reflected back to administrations and board folks like us, that we could, like, I don't know what we should do. I don't know if it's a priority to get teachers to the teachers' convention. I don't know what it used to be. I don't know what a district should be. I just am curious. We have teachers' convention days off, but whatever happened, I guess the attendance isn't what it should be, maybe?
It is state statute, correct?
Yes, in the statute, it talks about that a district may not schedule activities during those days, so that staff have the opportunity to attend that conference.
Wasn't it also a pay-related thing? That the teachers were paid on those days? Maybe I just don't understand this at all, but.
As long as I have been building the calendar or having the opportunity to chair that committee, it has been that thought pattern that we need to have those days off. Again, there is a statute that requires us to do that so that our staff have the ability to attend that conference.
And that conference is put on by now North Dakota United, is that correct, David? Okay, so it's a union-generated conference. I think that's appropriate.
Well, in the past, up until about 7 or 8 years ago, those were paid days for teachers to attend. They either had to go to the conference or stay at their school and work. And then about 7 years ago, they took the pay away, so now they're non-paid days. And so if you choose to go to the conference, it'd be at your own expense, and it's not a paid day. So majority of people are choosing, since it's not paid days, to take a family vacation or do whatever they wish. But, so that's the history of it, and so now that's why the enrollment's going down, or the attendance, because it's no longer paid days for teachers to attend. But it is also to go along with the administrative conference the same weekend, and so administrators are out in Bismarck the same weekend that teachers are doing a conference for them as well. So it kind of goes along hand in hand.
Thank you for the clarification. Paul?
Well, a couple of things. I think the administrators conference, and I don't mean this negatively, but those are paid days, I would assume. It's part of your contract.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Because I remember being on the board, and I also remember some history as being a teacher, and I think there was a kind of a move among school districts often to move that to a non-paid day as a way to, frankly, probably reduce attendance at those meetings. Now, not everyone, I'm sure many people would disagree with that, but it was de facto. It happened, and people were afraid that that's what would happen, and it has happened. And I would hope that we might find a way to work with North Dakota United and with other school boards and with our state association to find a way to strengthen that convention rather than weaken it. And the reason I say that is if we believe, and I think we probably do, that attendance at those meetings is a good thing for teachers and for communities and ultimately for students, if we believe that, we should find ways to strengthen it rather than the opposite. And I don't think we've been guilty of trying to weaken it. I just think maybe we ought to find some way of seeking to strengthen it, because I don't think that's just a teachers association concern. I think it's a concern of all of us. And I see a few of you nodding, which is good.
So the process going forward, once we assume we pass this, West Fargo's calendar often mirrors ours. I mean, what's the collaboration between the districts with these calendars?
We certainly share them back and forth. Dr. Alan Burgad helps create that calendar for the West Fargo Public Schools. He and I share calendars. We talk about, are there days that are similar, especially when they come to our professional development days, to see if there are opportunities for even more collaboration. We are not required to mirror one another, but we certainly share and talk through that process.
Okay, very good. Rebecca?
Well, I just wanted to mention, because those that are listening might not be looking at the document that we are, that we're talking about a school start date of August 27th for kids in school, with the 3 days prior for professional development, and the last day of being in school for a student contact day of May 27th.
Thank you. Diana?
So that means graduation is Memorial Day weekend? Or is it in June? Because there's a PD day on already afterwards.
If this schedule would go through, students would be done at the end of May or on the 27th, so that then graduation would follow that weekend. So yes, the weekend of the holiday.
Well, I would entertain a motion to bring this calendar forward.
Maybe that's my role.
It is.
I would like to move that the calendar for the 2015-16 school year be approved as draft 3.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussions or feedback? All right. Roll call.
Knutson,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes. We have a new calendar for next year. Jim?
Bob, just so you don't lose sight of this, obviously the big change here was we decided we didn't need, well, you call it a spring break, and maybe this year it really will seem like spring when it happens. One of the two big reasons we put in that in the calendar in the past was, quite frankly, had to do with employee attendance. So I'm just hopeful going forward through this year and then next year that we actually look to see, have we impacted the need for subs by what we've done in the calendar here?
Okay. John?
Madam President, I know this isn't part of the debate, but I would like to echo the conversation that very well was addressed by Paul. If we can, in any way, shape, or form, find ways to collaborate with our teachers to try and encourage and incent folks to go to their convention, we as a guiding principle know that professional development for us is important too, and going to conferences and learning. If there's any way, I'd throw that out there. If there's any discussions or anything that can be creatively looked at, as long as it's built into the calendar, I'd be curious what it could ever look like.
Thank you. Are you ready, Anne Marie? Okay. What? Oh, did we approve it? Oh, we did. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We
you're
were still
for the
discussing
calendar.
it.
I am ready
We
for the
have a
next agenda
calendar.
item.
Yeah, Anne Marie's ready. Woo! Okay. Jim, please.
I'd like to move that we accept GP 3, 9, and 10 monitoring reports as referenced by memo number 74 in our packet.
Second.
Okay. Any comments? Seeing no hands. Anne Marie, are you ready?
Myers. Yes. Paulson.
Yes.
Strand.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knudsen.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes. Thank you. That is ready to be filed and accepted here. Next item in the agenda would be a possible executive session for the purpose of negotiation strategies. Linda was not able to attend tonight. However, we did want to open up and discuss any items that want to be brought forward. So in order for us to go into executive session legally for the purposes of negotiation strategy, we would need a motion from the floor. Sure.
Are you saying that it would be important for us to have a meeting?
February 18th is our next meeting, I believe. We need to, our next meeting with the teachers' side, we need to come forth with some issues and present those at that meeting. I think it would be, well, the board should have an opportunity to provide ideas as well as feedback on those on the board with the board as a whole. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
But just to clarify, we do have one more board meeting prior to that, correct?
We do. And go ahead, Jim.
I just want to offer a suggestion, Robin, and we certainly can go into executive session and do it there, but I think why we had this on here was to make sure if any board member had a specific item they wanted our negotiating team to know about, to let us know about it. I know the administration has got some things that they're putting together for our team to look at, which will be important for the full board to look at too. So I wonder if we maybe shouldn't consider just moving this to the next meeting unless you think there's somebody that has something they actually want to share in executive session tonight.
Whatever the wishes of the board.
That's a good point. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay, good. All right, possible means no. Okay. I think we can cruise through the next section without a break. So, board reports. And Goldenberg has her name after one.
This is just a reminder. I checked with Rachel, and not all of you have contacted her regarding your elementary engagements, and this week is supposed to be the deadline. I'll even tell you that Rob and Jennifer and I have ours signed up. And I'll leave it at that. And if I'm poor Rachel, she's sitting there. It's not your fault that they haven't contacted you.
Are we the only three that have contacted?
You have contacted her, but you don't have yours assigned. There, he wanted me to say. I said the only ones that have their actual arrangements made are those three, unless it happened today, Paul, and I don't know.
Who does the assigning?
You need to contact Rachel, and she will arrange it for you with the strategist in each of your schools. And I think I've said that on numerous occasions, but just for repetitive purposes. Anyway, I'm not trying to make a big deal. Just please contact Rachel by the end of this week so that she can put the wheels in motion, so that you guys can do this prior to the end of April, get your reflections in appropriately, and we can discuss it at the second meeting in April. If you don't, you might get a special phone call from me. No, anyway.
Or publicly shamed.
Yeah, again, yes, right. So if there was just one person, I would never have done it, because there's several of you, I thought you could, whatever. Anyway, you want me to do my
Might as well,
committee
yep.
while I'm
You're on a
here?
roll, Dinah.
Yeah, on a roll. So there's not much to report after our last week of so busy things. It was a pleasure not to have too much last week. I was actually out of town. But the next Communications Committee meeting, which we still aren't clear whether we need or not, but it's still a placeholder, is Monday, February the 9th at noon. And I am, between now and next board meeting, I will be in Bismarck attending the negotiation.
Thank you. Paul?
I don't think I mentioned that I attended an event at the end of December, because I think I was gone at the end of the last meeting. But I had a chance to go to the Trollwood alumni performance event at the end of December. And I think, I don't know if you were there, Diana, but somebody else was there. I don't remember who. But it was just a tremendous event. And I just keep bringing these things up because for those of you who have been board members for a while, we've been through some times with Trollwood over the years that we were surprised that people were wondering what's going on out there and so on, but it was just a real opportunity to see an amazing group of alums come back and share a little bit about what it was like to have been involved in Trollwood. It's a great event and very well attended, and it dovetails into the next thing that I went to that I know Dr. Schatz and Anne Marie were also at, and that is the Trollwood council meeting that we had recently, where we have a board with the city of Moorhead and some other interested groups, and Dr. Schatz and Anne Marie do a great job of kind of heading that up and making things happen, and that happened recently. Just an amazing list of accomplishments for the whole village we call Trollwood out there, as well as Bluestem. Just an amazing group of accomplishments this year. I won't rattle through them, but know that Dr. Schatz has got Kathy and the rest of the people out at Trollwood/Bluestem just doing an amazing job. And the last thing I'll mention is the Fargo Public Schools Foundation is going to have participation in the Giving Hearts Day program coming up in February. So for anyone who likes to be involved with that, it's a great way to help build up the Fargo Public Schools Foundation. And I think that they're kind of leading the charge for the Got Milk program, as well as helping to coordinate some of the Trollwood contributions that go on at that time too. So it's a great thing to get involved with. And also, just a reminder once again, which we do from time to time, the foundation has its annual breakfast coming up in a month or two. And I don't have the date in front of me, unfortunately, but it should be an interesting opportunity. And I think Steve Stark has been asked back to do a presentation, somewhat building upon the one he did a couple years ago that was so well received. And I think they're looking to expand the numbers. So I'm hopeful that board members may be able to attend, or you may be able to invite other people to attend as well. You've got the date.
I've got the date. It's Wednesday, April 22nd.
Okay, thank you, Paul. David?
I guess the only thing that I had, excuse me, on my mind was I'd like to have a little more in-depth discussion at the next board meeting about what's actually happening out in Bismarck. Most of us don't have an opportunity to follow it as you folks do. And I think, not only the bills and whatever, but kind of the general atmosphere, because I'm getting, the people I've talked to, it sounds rather pessimistic. And I'd like to know if that's true, or if, what we can be doing to help because I know with the oil prices dropping, they're looking at the bust of the 80s, and there's a lot of doom and gloom. So if we could just spend possibly a little more time talking about the legislative issues and getting your feelings.
So for clarification then, David, not bill-specific as much as the climate that's out there?
The bills, of course, but the climate and the atmosphere that you're sensing just walking, through the cafeteria, through the halls. And
okay.
They know you guys and Dr. Agri so much better that they're going to talk more openly to you than they probably would to some of the others of us.
Okay. Thank you. Rebecca?
Last Friday, I was at the Clara Barton Ice Skating Classic, and that was fun. They've been having that. It's over 30 years strong, and it was kind of a warm day to have the skates on. The rink is looking kind of tough, but it was a great day for spectators because it was so gorgeous outside. Probably could have served like Kool-Aid or something instead of hot chocolate. But any rate, it was a fun event, and it's just the kids have a great time, and there are teachers and there are parents that attended that school that remember participating in that classic. So it's kind of fun to see that come full circle and hear the stories shared, and it's a great event for the community and a great event for Fargo Public Schools.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, the GAC committee will be meeting on Wednesday morning, February 11th. There's a new time, 11:30. So if you couldn't put that on and that'd be a good chance to really get a good in-depth update if you're able to ever join us. It's a lunch meeting, so let folks know if you're coming. But that's coming the 11th. February 17th, a reminder, the West Fargo school boards and administrators will be having a breakfast with legislators in Bismarck at the Kelly Inn early in the morning, Tuesday the 17th, arriving Monday night and having a social with legislators who can. I believe, isn't that a holiday also, President's Day? So
yes.
That's Monday the 16th arrival, Tuesday the 17th. And I'm guessing we'll head over to the Capitol and meander around and sense what the climate is there. That's my GAC committee report. The other committee report I'd like to make note of is the Native American Commission met on Friday, and they're doing a lot of reorganization, boardsmanship type things, but they have something come up that I'd like to just do best I can, just mentioning it to you. And I want to say it's RORR, Rivers of Red, I should have written the name down, but beginning in February and through like February 14th, there's about a week's activities regarding Indigenous girls and women who have had violence perpetrated against them or who have been killed and or lost. And it's surprising that this is a reality even today still, and that this is happening here too. And there's a movement from Canada down to New Mexico and so on, where this is a national movement that's coming here. And I'd encourage you to, if we could, as a district and each of us individually, see how we can glean information from this effort to heighten our awareness about some of the circumstances that the Native American community are facing. And I know one of the key speakers is Winona LaDuke. They have musicians involved, there's marches, there's seminars, and things like that. So, if nothing else, I can maybe bridge the Native American Commission to the district if anybody has interest in seeing more information on that.
Thank you. Jim?
Planning has not got a February meeting date scheduled yet. We certainly will. Brock obviously was front and center in Bismarck last week, and then he had his surgery. So when he gets back, he and I will look at calendars, try to figure out when he doesn't have to be in Bismarck, or at least when it might be less urgent that he get out there, and we'll get a date put out there. We definitely will be meeting. State School Board will be meeting next week at the same time the negotiation training's going on. And I haven't seen the agenda yet, but I have a feeling front and center will be legislative issues for the State School Board too. And I'll certainly keep you apprised of that. And I think that's it.
Thank you. I don't have a written report, but the dates really didn't, oh, did you? That's okay, don't worry about it. You're not ready. I'm teasing. The dates really didn't change as far as everything else goes there. So negotiations was added, though, as I said, to my list. That is February 18th. So that will be another busy week because we've got Monday and Tuesday in Bismarck, and the negotiations meets on the 18th. Prior to that, there will be a negotiations team meeting to get everything together to present at the 18th meeting. So look forward to that date. The only other, I've been just busy with legislative stuff, and so I didn't even keep track. FYI, the youth group Fargo Youth Initiative that I serve on as a liaison to the board, they are looking to have an activity day that would be excused absences for some of their team. So I am not asking for them for those excuses. I'm teaching them how to navigate that system, so that's in process. We're working on it. It's kind of fun to teach. I can't fix it. Yes. Yeah, so I'll help them learn how to work within the system. So Warren Todd, I'll be visiting with him pretty soon. So other than that, that's about it, gang. So any other reports that we're missing? Nothing. No birthdays? Okay. And our next regular meeting date is February 10th. Debriefing. Any items there? Sorry for my snafus there, gang. Okay. I think we're good. We are adjourned.